You had a mystery question for me.
Yeah, and
I
it's more.
hesitate to ask what that mystery question is, but what is the mystery question?
Yeah, so I mean, last week we put you through the fire a little bit, had
Yeah,
you
you did.
stressed. It was great TV. Definitely to see you sweat a little bit on that. But we discussed a little bit about obviously Patrick Surtain uh, possibly being available. I think that has died down. I think that was more media hype than actual reality. I don't think he's on the blocks. However, we had the last time the 49ers were 4-0, they went to a Super Bowl. One of the
True.
one of the key components to that was a midseason trade of Emmanuel Sanders. He played a big role in a position that needed some strength, right? The receiving core was still had a rookie Debo. I think Kendrick Bourne was there, but didn't have like a bona fide leader, a bona fide, reliable player. So they traded for Emmanuel Sanders, and he came in and he played lights out and really, was a big reason why the 49ers had the run that they had. So this year, obviously the team looks pretty good, right? They look very good. A lot of people are looking at them as the favorite through the first 4 weeks to win the Super Bowl. We know that this regime is not opposed to pulling the trigger on a midseason trade if they feel like it'll take them to the next level. So I want to identify a player or two that you feel like the 49ers could go after, should go after, that will fit this criteria, right? So one is gonna be a 1 year rental like Emmanuel Sanders was. So you
Okay.
don't have to worry about money and bringing money on the books and feeling like you got to sign them long term. It's just a 1 year rental for this year. You
Okay.
can't use anything higher than a third round
A
pick.
hired hitman. Okay, I
Hired
like it.
hitman. You
Okay.
can't use anything higher than a third round pick. So we're not trying to
Okay.
go like first round pick for some crazy deep like Brad Burns, right? We're not
Yeah.
talking about that type of player. We're
Yeah.
talking about a guy that's probably a vet, might be on the last year of his contract with his current team. The team knows that one, they're not going to make the playoffs, and two, they're not going to sign this person long term. So let's get some assets for him before he just walks in the offseason type of thing. Um, and that'll take the team to the next level.
There's one there's one guy that has been brought up a lot. And I hesitate to say this one because I don't know if they can get him for a third. So I'll give you two players. The first one that I think would be an obvious slam dunk would be Daniil Hunter. He has a void year at the end of this year. He's not going to be back. I would be shocked if he's back with the Vikings. He's going to be 30 years old soon, basically the final year of his contract. So he fits all the criterias to only net a third round pick. I think it's possible that if the Vikings keep losing, and I expect them to, that he could be had for a third, potentially. But I could see a team that's like really in the mix, if multiple teams get in a bidding war, that maybe, just maybe, somebody's willing to give up a second and even extend him. The 49ers, I don't think, would be that team. And obviously it wouldn't meet the criteria. So I'm not going to say him for sure. He's a possibility. But one guy that I do think they could get, and I don't even think it would take a third. I think they can probably get it done for a fourth, maybe a fifth or a couple fifths. This was a player that was signed very late this offseason. He's a guy that I wanted the 49ers to sign. I think a lot of people look at him and are like, oh, he's kind of a locker room issue. I don't believe that at all. I think he's very competitive. I think he's fiery. And I think that a team with the locker room that the 49ers have could take on a player that can get a little cagey, let's say. And it's at another position of need. We talk about corner. We were talking about Patrick Surtain last week. Yes, I would love to get Patrick Surtain and do all those other things. But a player that I think they could get for a fourth or maybe a couple fifths, Marcus Peters. free agent at the end of the year, signed a 1-year deal. Again, was around very late. I wish the 49ers just outright signed him. They didn't do that. I think it's clear that Ambry Thomas, at least so far, has not been who the 49ers hoped he would be. As soon as he's out on the field, he gets picked on. Marcus Peters is still playing pretty damn good football. He's not the elite corner anymore. He's not the number one guy. But if you can get a guy like Peters and you can slide Demo into the nickel position, I feel very, very comfortable with Charvarius Ward, Peters, Diamador Lenore. So I'm going to say Marcus Peters. I think it's very realistic. Don't think it'll even take a third. I know it won't take a third to get him. That's the guy that I would say is the most realistic possibility that I can think of off the top of my head. I'll go Marcus Peters.
I like that because I have two players in mind. Peters is actually was a guy that was a third on my list, but I definitely think, much like in the 2019 year where the 49ers went to the Super Bowl, there's one group that definitely needs to be fortified, and it's the cornerback room. That year it was the receivers. This year it's the corners. And I think there's two players that kind of fit the criteria where they're guys that are a little bit older. The current team that they're with is probably not going to pay them the money that they're looking for. So they're looking to get assets, and possibly these teams, one for sure isn't going to be in the playoffs based off of how they're playing. The other one might have some beliefs now, but I contend that later on in the year, they're not going to feel that way as much. First person is, and this might be more of a hoop dream, but I do think he could fit the criteria, Kendall Fuller from the Washington Commanders. Right now, they obviously are playing pretty decent, so maybe they have some, hopes of winning, getting into the playoffs. So that might be a few weeks down the line if they lose, a couple of games and takes them out of contention. They might be looking to sell on a player like Kendall Fuller, who I think still has a lot of juice, can come in, be a part, be a player that could really show out on a really good defense and play meaningful games throughout the year. So I think that would be one. The next one is Adoree Jackson from the New York Giants.
I would love Adoree. I don't.
Adoree Jackson
be had for a third though.
Well, I think he's in the last year of his contract. I don't think the Giants are already, look, they just paid a lot of money to a player that they're stuck with. I think that they're going to have to they let Bradbury go. Is Adoree Jackson better than Bradbury? I don't know. Because they didn't want to pay Bradbury the type of money that he wanted to. I think that they'd be looking to recoup draft picks. Probably not going to pay Adoree Jackson. They're not going anywhere. That could be somebody that the 49ers can eye and possibly get for a third rounder, just because the Giants are trying to just get off of money. So those are the two players that I'd be looking at that I think are possibilities for the 49ers to get.